Hi guys, welcome back to Overtime Heroics MMA Podcast. It's been a while. I'm Martin Hamilton. I'm joined today by Gregory Dorville and Mason Shatwells. How are you doing, guys?
It feels great to be back, Martin.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It has. It's been a long while. A lot of things have happened since the last time we done the podcast. Mason's the fight.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, I've just been enjoying the content that UFC's been putting out nowadays. I think Tough just wrapped up, and now we're seeing that there's some title fights that are being made final, and one that is just around the corner. So yeah. I kind of say this every year, but it's a good time for MMA.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I feel every time I see a UFC card this year, I'm saying that's the best card I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
But I
don't think there's been a card that's disappointed this year.
No, even the fight nights, even the fight night cards are absolute bangers.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, I'll go. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, sorry, on you go.
I especially like the fact that sleeper cards are the ones that give out the most entertainment. Like people don't expect them to blow up. Like last week, with I think it was Cannonier versus Gastelum. Yeah, every other fight underneath that card was really good. And we'll just expect to see that as like there's more up and comers. And with Dana White's Tender series, like people are starting to become more well-rounded. It's not just knockouts. In fact, I think it was last week or the 2 weeks after that, 2 weeks before that, there was 5 contracts given on that one night, which I don't think he's ever done in a while or ever.
Yeah, I think you're right there. I don't think that's ever been done before, which is very surprising, which is very amazing. It just shows the level of guys that are coming through, which is really good to see. Because the podcast today, the vast majority of it is going to look at last night's UFC as like the main talking point. I can already hear James and Angel and Jude in the comments shouting at us for no talking about ONE FC. But hand on heart, I was busy on Friday and I forgot to watch it. So I really apologise.
Nothing wrong with a good bit of passion. It means what makes this fun.
No, absolutely. Because we can kick off about last night's card, and I think that was very low down in the order, but the guy is really something special when you watch his technical ability, and it's Jack Shore. What did you think of Jack Shore's performance?
I really like. Oh, sorry, go. Sorry, I didn't know who was.
Yeah, it's okay. I just think at the moment I don't see anyone in the between ranking 11 and 15 stopping Jack Shore. I think when he eventually gets to the top 10 guys, that's when I see him potentially getting tested. But even I don't think that's guaranteed. I just think at the moment the ability of Jack Shore, nobody's wanting to fight him. Obviously, he's had a few pullouts, and we don't know why. It could be injury, it could be injury, and they're saying they're injured and just not wanting to fight the guy. And I wouldn't blame them, to be honest, because Jack Shore's a beast in there, and we've seen that last night. And I don't see many people wanting to take a fight against Jack at the moment.
Right. Yeah, it's one of those things. Once you get into the rankings hierarchy, you don't want to lose your spot to someone that's below you. And once you're going up to the rankings, you even have like a few months or 6 months until you got to wait for a championship bout, especially if your last victory wasn't all that special. Yeah, it's a weird situation. And then there's like the cases where people don't care about rankings anymore. It's like if you're new and you did your part, or you have a name, like in Michael Chandler's case, you'll just get like a booster to the top.
I think that's a good point. You're hitting the nail on the head. I think a lot of people don't really care about the rankings, because I think if you were to ask most people to name the top 15 ranked guys in each division, most of them would struggle. and that's not a doubt. That's no me having a go at ND's knowledge or anything. But a lot of the time you don't really bother about the rankings. You just want to see the guys that bring the entertainment value.
Yeah.
But with Jack Shore as well, let's see after the fight it came out that he'd like torn his bicep. sort of idea. So he was going in with essentially one arm, and just to see the clinic, especially in the grappling, because the guy he was up against, I can't even pronounce his second name. I apologise. It's like Shalinian. He is a very accredited grappler over in the East of Europe, and we've seen how Eastern Europeans have taken grappling to the UFC. We've seen it with like the Dagestanis, especially the Georgians. They're coming in and they're showing it. The Eastern European grappling is really high level. So for him to kind of essentially ragdoll, because that's where a lot of Jack Shaw's success was coming from as well, was in the grappling exchanges. But it wasn't like wrestling, which was so weird, because he wasn't like shooting double legs, he wasn't shooting single legs. It was like off catch. He was like catching a kick, and sweeping him off that. So he was being more intricate with his grappling. It was looking seamlessly. It was stuff that didn't observe a lot of energy and wasn't straining his body as much, because, you know, a lot of guys know what it's like. It's like when you wrestle, it's very grueling. It's very tough on your body. But he was doing, it was very intricate. It was a bit like ballet, the way he was taking them down. It was like seamlessly. It looked a bit like shadow boxing at times, how effortless it looked. It was really impressive.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I've seen a little bit of that, like in whether it's Olympic wrestling or American wrestling through college wrestling competitions. Yeah, you see a lot of that where people just drill moves like 1, 2, 3 times, and then they can just perform the move once they see the opportunity. And I see a lot of that in Jack Shaw's grappling. Yeah, like it's like between American wrestlers and East European wrestlers and Dagestanis. I would argue though that East Europeans and Dagestanis, they're like way ahead of us when it comes to grappling, only because I think it's just like the region there. You see like Dagestanis go like winning the majority of the like grappling championships, and there are only like a few people in that region. So it just goes to show you like how much they grind through it, and how like yeah, and how much like grueling how grueling the process is.
It's that way as well. It's a very tough region, Dagestan. Like, it's war torn, which you don't want to say that impacts, and that's the reason they are where they are. But a lot of time, if you come from an area where you're just used to so much hardship, you're just used to grinding for everything that you want. It's a mentality thing as well. So see, when these guys are on the mat and they're wrestling somebody, and they might have a similar kind of caliber of talent, but a lot of the time it can be that mentality that pushes them over. Like, they're used to grinding their whole life for everything, and they're up against somebody that's maybe potentially quite a cushy upbringing. By that I mean comfortable. They've had quite a comfortable upbringing. They've not had to deal with much adversity in their life, and that can be the difference maker. Like, just that grind and that grit to be able to dig in really deep when things get tough.
I wanted to ask you guys, who would you match Jack against next?
I guess anyone that is ranked above him. He's really clean with the wrestling, so I think he just needs to fight someone like either above him or get like a low rankings guy. I would have to see how well he fares against that. It could be, I can see why Michael Bisping compared him with GSP, because like before he had that winning victory, that submission victory with Bisping, he was mostly going to distance. But he, although he was like, it was like unanimous decisions, like he didn't really exert himself. But if that's how he's going to be at the current level he's in, once he ramps up into competition, I want to see how well he can handle that.
For me, I quite like the idea of him against Sadiq Nurmagomedov, because Sadiq looked outstanding in his last fights as well, and I think that's a big name for Jack Shaw. So if that's an avenue that they want to revisit, then I would kind of be all for that. That or push for the Sean O'Malley fight. Like, Sean O'Malley, like Sean O'Malley's a big name that can push you over, that isn't really high up in the rankings. I'm trying to think if Sean O'Malley even is ranked. He may be ranked 15, like 15 or 14 or something, but push for that. I know it might be different because I know Sean O'Malley's looking to fight in December and Jack Shore's coming off a bicep tear. So he might be out for a long length of time. So that might kind of impact things. But if he's ready to go and Sean O'Malley's without a dance partner,
I would like to see that.
I would love to see that fight. Love it.
Yep.
If that fight came about and Jack could avoid Sean's striking, I'm going to throw the belt out there and say that Jack wins that fight.
I think so as well. I think he's got the sauce.
I think if he used the heavy wrestling base, but even his strike, I don't think he's at the same level of striking as O'Malley. I don't think a lot of people are in the bottom half of the rankings. I think Sean O'Malley, he probably is a top 10 fighter in terms of striking, but I think the wrestling would be a big factor in the fight. And I think that's what would win it for Jack if he was to fight Sean. I think he would win that fight. Not easily, but I think he would get the win.
To be fair, I don't really see him getting the Sean O'Malley fight because I know they're going to put Sean O'Malley in with a big name because he's got a lot of hype behind him. So I don't think they would risk putting him in with the likes of Jack Shore, who's just essentially a prospect. So you've always got that. But if I could dream, if I could pick one match dreaming, it would be him.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Purely because I want him to derail the hype train. But
yeah. I don't know about seeing Sean O'Malley as a contender. I mean, he's just as much as a prospect as anyone else if they're just going to keep feeding him fights like this. And when he was facing Marlon Vera, he was truly tested, and he had nothing for him when he got to the ground. Jack Shore is impeccable with his wrestling. If Sean O'Malley can't get through that, I mean, I don't see any why they wouldn't make that fight.
I would love for that fight to be made, but I don't, just because I've seen it, they were trying to target Sean O'Malley with the likes of Frankie Edgar. I don't think they're going to go for like Frankie Edgar to somebody that's not ranked. I feel like that jump's just too big for the UFC at the moment. And it's that way as well. A lot of people are starting to kind of lose a bit of interest in Sean O'Malley because they aren't putting him up against really good guys yet. Which he's only which we need to remember, he's only about 4 or 5 fights into his UFC career. He's had a loss and he's withstood 2 injuries. And there was that whole thing about him getting banned for the tainted supplements, which turned out they were actually tainted. So he lost about, I think it was 18 months of his career for no reason. So that's how it feels that Sean O'Malley's been around so much longer. But I quite like the way the UFC were playing it with him. Like they weren't throwing him in straight away with Cody Garbrandt. But see, when he was calling for that Cody Garbrandt fight, it felt to me too early. And like the UFC like to have their cash cow. So I don't think.
Speaking of the word cash cow, Paddy Pimblett.
Yeah.
Paddy Pimblett, he was the topic of our group chat for a long time. We were all, especially the Europeans. Like the Europeans, we've all watched Paddy Pimblett on the regional scene. We all watched him in Cage Warriors for a while, so we all knew of Paddy Pimblett. We all knew the hype surrounding Paddy Pimblett, and there's always something unique when guys reject the UFC. But see, when the UFC come knocking, it's not often guys reject them. The only people I can really think of that have done that is Israel Adesanya and Yuri Pikranska. And we've seen what that's done to their careers. Like they came in and took it by storm. So as much as everyone likes to lay into Paddy Pimblett and make out as if he's not intelligent and he's a hype train sort of idea, I think him doing this just shows that there is a strong head in that boy's shoulders.
Yeah, I think after what we've seen last night, the word cash cow, it could be true. I'm not going to be throwing out names like, he's going to be the next Conor McGregor or what yet, because he's one fight into his UFC career. But with the way that he's going, he brings a big English fan base, and and it's going to be a big European fan base as well. And it won't be long till he starts getting those American fans all on board. And I think after last night, after his post-fight interview, and even the fight itself, I think American fans are in for a treat now they know about Paddy Pimblett.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I already see the memes when they were talking about Paddy Pimblett. There were some people like comparing his cadence to John Lennon. I mean, since they're both from Liverpool, and also like Paddy the Beatles Pimblett, and yeah. So there's there's quite some praise from American fans of Paddy Pimblett. Like from the hardcore people, like we're all hardcore people, they just worry that his tendency to leave his chin up is going to be a real problem with him, especially in the lightweight division, like where everyone is like ridiculously stacked. And in the rankings, you have like really seasoned boxers like Michael Chandler, Charles Oliveira, Dustin Poirier. When he goes up to face people like them, Conor McGregor even. I would like, I don't, Hey, do you think they'll probably set up something with Conor McGregor and Paddy Pimblett?
I think if that was ever going to happen, it's a good 2 years away at least.
Right. I guess until like Conor McGregor, like I guess his celebrity starts waning. Do you think his celebrity will ever wane?
I'm not sure, but I do think if the fight ever happens, it would be at least 2 years. Obviously, Conor's recovery is probably going to be out for a year or so anyway. But
it was a nasty one.
I think they need to build Paddy up, and I don't want them to do what they've done with Till, which we'll more than likely get onto later on. Obviously, they rushed Till way too quick, and if they give Paddy the right fights, but I don't want him to give fights to Paddy like they are with Sean O'Malley, fights that he's supposed to win. I want him to be tested like he was last night. He got caught with a good few punches, but he showed that he can come back from that. But I think 4-5 fights maybe get into the I say 3 fights get into the rankings, 4-5 fights get top 10, 6-7 fights you start talking about what could be, and then I'm gonna throw a name about for next few fights for Paddy potentially. I know they're both British, both lightweight. What about a potential fight with Mason Jones and Paddy Pimblett, both the same weight?
I think that's quite an interesting fight. But before that, I just want to come on to that point about being the next Conor McGregor. I don't think that's a ludicrous thing to say. Like, I know a lot of people are saying it's ludicrous because the success Conor McGregor's had in the sport, and I completely agree with that. Like the success McGregor's had is it's unrivaled to a lot of people. Like he is in the elite status, but like when you come to like fighters making their debut to the UFC, not many fighters have made such an impact as Paddy Pimblett. The only guy that I can think of out with that probably is Conor McGregor. Like they both come from Cage Warriors. They both like to talk shit. They both get that. They've got a persona, and they've got a core group of people that want to back them. See the way the Irish backed McGregor. That's the way we'll see the Scousers back Paddy Pimblett, because it's like a cult. Like kind of Molly McCann spoke about that as well. She's it's like they're on your journey with you. They come for the same streets as you come from. They come for the same estates, so they buy into it. They buy into your dream with you, and no a lot of areas do that. So I think with Paddy Pimblett, the UFC does have a special star there. And just to throw this out, because I don't know if you will have seen it, but people have compared and I know everything's not about Instagram, but they've compared the Instagram followers to Paddy Pimblett and Leon Edwards, and Paddy Pimblett's got more.
Yeah.
Than Leon Edwards.
He's just been on the sidelines too long. I mean, and also the fact that he almost got dwindled down by Nate Diaz, who was a great boxer in his own right, but I guess he spent too long, too passively, just standing by. I mean, it got him a unanimous decision, but it just didn't do anything for his fan base. It just didn't look well. Paddy Pimblett, on the other hand, man, he's a dog out there. So I mean, I think it'll be even to the point like Poirier and like other fighters, they'll go for the finish regardless. Like even let's see, Jan Blachowicz. Even in his old age, he knocked the guy out for the championship. Like, there's people that will like go to the finish regardless. So as long as he keeps that energy and is really smart about it, I think he'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
But just to come back to your point as well, Mason, I like that idea. I like the idea of Paddy Pimblett and Mason Jones. They're both the Cage Warriors. They're both world champions at Cage Warriors. Let's go. Let's make it happen.
I say, obviously, Mason Jones is fighting, I think, October 23rd. I think he's rematching Alan Patrick, and if the first fight is anything to go off, Mason should smoke Alan. But he was winning that fight every second of it last time until the unfortunate eye poke. So that fight, it should go down as Mason Jones getting a really good win. Paddy wants to fight end of the year, so I'm guessing probably December. That may be too quick for Mason, potentially, because I know he does a lot of his training over in America, and I know he did his camp for Alan Patrick in America. I think he was at home for 2 weeks. He's been in America since 2 weeks after the Patrick fight, I think. And I think will probably want to spend some time with his family towards the end of the year. But say Mason beats Alan Patrick, and if Paddy does get a fight end of the year and he comes out victorious, who says no to a January, February scrap with them two? Both really, really good strikers. Mason, I'd probably edge the striking. Paddy, I'd edge the grappling, but Mason's no something the grappling. I'm sure. If I'm right, I'm sure he's got a BJJ black belt.
It's that way as well. He's out training at Team Alpha Male, who are a very wrestling heavy camp. They've got some great wrestlers over there, like Chad Mendes, Uriah Faber, Tyler Diamond. They've got some great guys round about Mason's weight as well. It's a very light camp. But if it is too early for Mason Jones, then I know a man, my fellow Scotsman, who has been calling Paddy Pimblett out all night.
I know what he said.
I love him for it. He has already defeated Paddy Pimblett. Fair play, it was at Polaroid in a grappling match, and I think Paddy Pimblett was going in with an injury. He was saying that in his interview the other night with Cooper Burke. If you haven't heard that over at the Overtime Heroics YouTube channel, go and listen to that. It's really good. But yeah, Stevie Ray seems to want to fight. He's come out of retirement. Does
he still have any sort of contract with the UFC?
No, he retired. Well, no, I think he was let go from the UFC before, but said he retired. It was something like he'd put a big post about it on his Instagram, and I remember reading it, but I can't remember the actual words, so I don't want to paraphrase in case I say something that gets taken out of context. But yeah, it was like he essentially said he was retired rather than saying he got let go. But he looks to be coming back. He's looking for a fight. He was asking Brave, Bellator. But he's already got connections with the UFC, so
in the best way possible to Steve. The only way I see him getting a fight with Paddy in the UFC now, like as his next fight, would be if someone's pulled out short notice against Paddy, just because I think the UFC will probably, if Stevie's serious about the comeback and he wants to go out full time, go for the UFC and try and head towards a title shot at some point. I think, as we've seen with the UFC, they probably want to see him have one or two fights maybe to get back in the win column, get back in there, get in the rhythm of it. But if the Mason Jones fight didn't happen, I wouldn't be, as you mentioned his name, I wouldn't be opposed to Stevie Ray and Paddy Pimblett fight. As you said, obviously, I think Paddy came into the grappling bout with an injury, but oh well, I still think it would be a pretty decent scrap.
It's that way as well. Most people go into fights and grappling matches with injuries as well, so there's nothing to say that Stevie Ray didn't have niggles on him going into the match. So
yeah. Nothing here. I guess I'm just looking forward to see how he progresses. I'm not too well versed on Mason Jones, as you said, so I'll definitely look him up. I guess in Paddy's case, yeah, just brush up on fundamentals. That's all I got.
I'm going to bring another guy up from last night, and to be fair, before I bring him up, I'm going to talk about the fight that I was not disappointed, but kind of gutted with the result. Modestas Bukauskas and Khalil Rountree Jr. I really wanted Modi to get this win because he really needed it, and he deserved it. Obviously, now he's on a run of free. Who knows what the UFC is going to do? I'm guessing they're probably going to, from what we've seen recently, I'm guessing the UFC may cut him just because it is free on the trot. He did lose to Jimmy Crute. He lost the controversial split decision to, I can't pronounce his name, so I'm not even going to try. And obviously, last night didn't go his way either. But I think it was only a matter of time till the fight was stopped anyway. I think Khalil was winning that fight. He was definitely winning the fight. And I think it was only probably, unless he gassed out, which he did seem to be tiring towards the end of the fight, I would have seen him potentially finishing him. If not, I do think he would have got the decision, Khalil Roundtree.
Khalil Roundtree, for me, and I don't like to say this, he's a very infuriating fighter to watch. Because what you don't know what you're going to get with him. He's very unpredictable. Sometimes he goes in and he looks an absolute phenom. Like his striking is hugely on point. He knocked out Paul Craig, and then he went on. I think he went in a couple of fights skid, and then he went over to Thailand to train at Tiger Muay Thai, and then he came back looking phenomenal. Had a couple of great wins, and then went in a couple of fights skid again, and then last night absolutely looked like a phenom again. So it's very infuriating to watch that. Like, I know you can't look your best every fight, and I know injuries play a part and opponents play a part. You've not always get the same chess partner, but people use different. Chess is always a way I like to describe martial arts, because not every player uses the same moves, so not every game's going to be the same. It depends on who you're playing, how certain things might work, and if they'll work, sort of thing. So that's how I never buy into things like MMA math. Because he beat him, that means he needs to beat Hicks. There's so many variables. But I'm going off on a tangent here. Gregory, what did you think of the fight?
Yeah, I enjoyed the fight. Yeah, I'm on the same boat as you with Khalil. Yeah, I mean, the mental game. Yeah, with any kind of sport, it's just as much mental as it is physical. Yeah, and he's been vocal about how he's been struggling mentally, with his career. So I think it was like an act of desperation from round 1 and 2. In round 1, he was trying to knock the dude out completely, but and you can see how much he was trying to go for the kill, and that I think the other guy picked up on that, so he wanted to be more patient about it. And I think that last kick, it was brutal. I can see why people would want to say it should be illegal, although I don't agree. But yeah, I think that was just something he wanted to do to just get it out there. Get out there immediately and just go for the win. Yeah, because he was just as much at risk of being kicked out as the other guy was. So sorry, I'm trying to remember his name.
Modesta.
So yeah, but say again.
Modesta,
thank you. Mm-hmm. So yeah, for him, yeah, he was just as much at risk of being axed. So he had to go for broke.
I think, see, at the beginning of the fight, I don't think he was expecting Khalil to come out the way he did. He looked a bit like a rabbit in the headlight. And I don't think it helped that he got his nose punched from one side of his face to the other.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, it was really rare for him to go all out in the first round. He wasn't even like that during his Bangkok ready phase when he fought Eric Anders. Yeah, he was really more well reserved. Yeah, he kept the distance. He only pressed if needed be. Yeah, so it was a completely different. I don't know if he's going to do that again for the next time he fights. It wouldn't be really well advised if he did. But if he wanted to do that, he could do it a little bit smarter. But I would like to see if he can run some fights back. I don't know what Ion Kutalaba is doing. I think he hasn't fought since the Magomed Ankalaev fight. If he wants to run that back, that would be nice.
As Gregory mentioned before, obviously, I've seen some people want the oblique kick to be banned and illegal, and obviously Gregory doesn't agree with it, and I'm in the same boat as Gregory. Just because if you're all for seeing people get elbowed in the head, getting cut open, get knocked out, why should a kick be banned? Because obviously, yeah, it can break your leg, do whatever, but the damages that could happen from an elbow or punches, the concussions, the long-lasting brain damages that could be a potential factor of a fight, they're more severe than a broken leg, in my opinion. And I think if you're willing to see a guy get knocked out unconscious, then why should a kick be banned?
Right. Oh yeah. Oh, and I don't know if I'll let Martin go. Then I'll just go with my point.
Oh no, Gregory, go ahead.
I was gonna bring up ONE FC. They allow knees to the face while you're down, and they don't disallow oblique kicks. Like, we get the better of it because we don't allow any kinds of knees when the person's grounded, nor do they allow it when the person's on the ground and they're kneeing the person on top. So it's kind of like watered down already. So to water it down even further, it's gonna go the way of like Olympic karate or Olympic taekwondo, where you're just doing like teep kicks until the buzzer goes. So for this one, I can understand the other side's feelings towards it, but it just won't. There's other moves that can be seen as banned, but they're allowed. So yeah, it's just going to be a slippery slope.
With me, I don't think oblique kicks should be banned personally, but I can understand the argument for it, especially in a Muay Thai background. It's deemed a very dick move to do that in competition. Just because you would only really do it to someone you wanted to hurt, because how devastating they can be. Like, with a punch, most of your punches won't hurt the way an oblique kick will, because most of the time as well, if you get knocked out, you're only medically suspended for about 6 months. But what we seen with Modesta last night, he's tore basically ripped his knee apart with just that one strike. But he'd Khalid Roundtree threw it in a transition earlier on as well. I think it was a couple of strikes before that. He threw it and marginally missed, so you could see him going for it. Mm-hmm. And I get why people don't want to see it. I get people want fighters' safety to be paramount. I do get that, but as Gregory said, it is a slippery slope. Like, do you then go on to this? Do you then look at knee bars and say you can't do knee bars because the devastation a knee bar can have on you? Most leg locks can be devastating on you if they're put in for too long, because a lot of guys go tap and get their leg ripped apart. A lot of arm bars arm attacks can get. You can get your arm ripped apart as well. Like, we seen what happened to Jacare Souza a couple of months ago. We seen what Paul Craig done to Jamal Hill. Like, these guys as well, these are tough guys, and they're not always going to tap out, and that's what we need. I know it's different to a degree, but the devastation on their bodies could be the exact same as an oblique kick. So I think if you're looking to ban oblique kicks, which I understand the argument for it, then you need to start looking at these submissions as well. And where do we end up? Where does this go? I don't want to be the guy. I don't want to be like the Just Bleed guy who just goes to see absolute violence. But a lot of people, that's what they tune in for. A lot of people, they want it.
It's what makes the sport what it is.
Yes. And it's so ironic that it came in the same day as a lot of people were arguing that it's okay to throw that in sparring, because Conor McGregor threw it in his training partner. And most gyms across the country, if you were to throw that in sparring, your sparring partner's either putting you through the ground or you're not allowed back, because it's a ridiculous move to use on anyone. Never mind your sparring partner, because especially in Muay Thai, it's severely frowned upon to do it in competition. In Muay Thai, I don't think it's illegal, but it's one of the ones, if you do it, a lot of people will be unhappy that you've done it. Yeah. If you do it in sparring, it's a dick move.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Mason.
No, you go ahead, Gregory. It's okay.
Oh yeah, I was going to bring up a point that Martin said about, yeah, even in Muay Thai, as devastating as that martial art is, there's gentleman rules there, so you don't want to hurt your opponent. I mean, we all have families, we have kids to feed, so you don't want to hurt a person to the point where they can't even provide for their family. Yeah, I mean, for some people, they don't even think like that, or they might not even be at that mode yet where they would want to consider gentleman rules like that. I mean, Yoel Romero was kind of like that, facing Whitaker. And I guess there was like it was a out of context statement that Darren Till made. It was like, I don't care about my family. I just want to care about fighting. What he meant was he didn't want to have any kind of distractions. He wanted to focus on his goals. He didn't say he wanted to just not care about his family. But people like are in that mode where I got to win no matter what, and that's what uh, prevents them from engaging in that gentleman rule mindset.
Absolutely, and I completely agree with that, and I completely understand how some people don't follow by the gentleman rules, because at the end of the day, fuck this guy. This guy's trying to knock me out. It's like a cage fight. It's as primal as you can get. They're modern. They're essentially modern day gladiators.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing is, they're not fighting to the death. They're fighting until the ref pulls them off them, pulls them off the opposition. Like, that's a lot of guys. That's the thing as well. Like, a lot of mixed martial arts fighters aren't nice people. Like, we need to stop putting them on a pedestal that they're these really nice guys because Bruce Lee was a great guy. Not every mixed martial artist will do it. Same in every sport. You get dicks. So yeah, some guys probably do want to hurt their opponent. So
100%. I'm going to go into. I'm going to bring up someone else from last night who I was going to bring up before, the man, the myth, the future UFC heavyweight champion, Tom Aspinall. I don't want to be one of them that's going to try and push it too quick, but he's 4 fights into his UFC career. He's been into the second round once within the UFC. I don't think he's been out the second round in his whole career. I think he's now 8-9-2, and he seems unstoppable at the moment. I know, and one thing I'm admiring about Tom as well, he doesn't want to push himself too quick, because he's saying he's not ready for the guys like the Ngannous, the Miocic's, and I do agree with him that I don't think he is ready, but if he continues to moving up the ladder slowly like he is, then damn, I think in a year's time we could be talking about Tom Aspinall in the top 5 picture. And I'm going to bring up a name that I think was brought up in a post-fight interview backstage, Ivanov, that I think that's going to be a good fight for Tom if he can get that fight.
It's a good fight, actually. I really like that, but I also really like Tom Aspinall, and I'll tell you why. I just think he seems a really great guy. He's not got an attitude. It's strange because he's like the polar opposite for Paddy Pimblett. See, when you hear him speak, he's just your everyday guy. Not that Paddy Pimblett isn't. Like, I know plenty of Paddy Pimbletts in my life. Like, I know plenty of guys that are the class clown, but you also know like 1,000 guys that are like Tom Aspinall that just go to work, just got on about their business, punch their ticket and go home, but are really good at what they do. And you'll struggle to see a heavyweight that's quicker than Tom Aspinall, because he's really fast. And I love that his dad corners him. I think that's brilliant. I love it. Same with Jack Shaw. I love it. They've got their dad saying it's a fun thing.
As you were saying about Tom being a great guy, I can agree as well, because I spoke to Tom a few times in DMs as well, and he just seems a great guy, even just to talk to as well. So that makes it even better seeing someone succeed, that they're a nice guy as well as being a great fighter. And I do think, like I mentioned before, in a year's time, I do think we'll be talking about Tom Aspinall maybe fighting in a top 5, just because the heavyweight division seems to move a lot quicker than any of the other ones. If you're a heavyweight and you can bang, then the UFC are going to love you. And I think it helps that he's British as well, because I think whenever you've got a British fighter that's really good at what they do, I think the UFC just want to push them to try and be the next Michael Bisping or the next Darren Till. And I think that's good in a way, but also it could be a downfall. But with Tom, he's controlling his own career. He's saying that he doesn't want to fight these top guys just yet, but he does believe that he will be there soon.
Yeah, because I was listening to him in an interview the other day, and he was saying it's essentially like he believes he needs to work his way there. Because what he was saying is he believes if he was put in against them, that he could win, and a lot of them he probably could. Because especially at heavyweights, you've got a 50-50 chance with most guys because they're that big. But it just feels to me that as if he doesn't believe he deserves that chance yet, and that's an incredible mindset because we see it with a lot of guys. As soon as they get one or two fights, they're the bee's knees, they're the man about town, and they're calling out all the big names. He's not. He's wanting to move up the ladder slowly. He's wanting to get time in the octagon. Because he mentioned a great point about Cyril Gane as well. Like, because Cyril Gane, I think he's 7 or 8 fights in his whole mixed martial arts career. But what Tom Aspinall was saying is a lot of his fights went the distance with Cyril Gane. So like Cyril Gane, he was getting 15 minutes here, he was getting 15 minutes there, and then he was going 25 minutes. So see what that all accumulates. That all accumulates to octagon time. So although you might have had more career fights than Cyril Gane has a lot of minutes in that octagon, and it all pays dividends. So I think that was what Tom Aspinall gets it a lot, is although he's getting quite a few fights, he's not getting a lot of octagon time. See when you're up against a guy like Miocic or a Curtis Blades, somebody like that, somebody that's been around a while and they've grinded their whole career, a lot of their fights go the distance. That could be the difference maker because they know how to manage energy better. They know how to manage the cage better. They know what's expected, when to explode, when to hold back, when to conserve. It's really just plays in to his fighting IQ, and it makes you want him to succeed.
Yeah. And about Cyril Gane, half of it is that, but also they were painting the narrative that he was the former training partner of Francis Ngannou, so they're trying to make that a butting heads storyline. I don't know how much of that is true. Maybe it was just a career decision, but I would like to see what Tom Aspinall does. He kind of has that Poirier energy where he's just like a working man. He just wants to get the job done, like Mason said. So I'm glad that he mentioned that. So I do like Tom Aspinall. He seems like a swell guy, and also he's rugged. Well, in the octagon. And I agree with his decision to, I guess, wait it out. Jessica Andrade did the same thing as she was getting to the championships. She's like, I'm not in a rush. I'm young. I can still fight, and it worked for her. So it's she's just So I can see why he's going with that decision. I think it will work for him.
I think so as well, and I do genuinely believe that he will be England's next champion. Because we've seen how quick things move at heavyweight, and he really is in there with a shout, and he's starting to work with a lot more heavyweights as well in training. He's doing a lot of work with Michael Parkin and Phil De Vries for Team Fish Tank. So he's starting to get a lot more rounds with heavyweights, which especially in the UK scene, it's really hard to get heavyweights. So he's starting to evolve his training more, and he looks something special. But I was thinking as well, how old is he?
Tom, I think he's only about 28, 29, around that age.
Which is old. Which is very young for a heavyweight, because as we've seen with heavyweights, he's 28 years old, literally just turned 28. We see with them, they live forever. They're like dogs. No, they're like parrots. They live forever, but they're like 50 and still fighting. It's crazy. So,
well, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, who would you like to see him fight next?
Oh, who I'd like to see? I do like the Ivanov fight, if that fight can come about, just because it's one above him in the rankings, and it gives him a chance to be tested potentially, because Ivanov, he's no pushover, but I don't see anyone really testing Tom Aspinall till we're talking about, trying to think, maybe top 8, top 7, just because I see him being able to take these. In his post-fight interview, he said he didn't even know where the elbow that dropped Spivak, he didn't know where that came from. He just flown it in the motion, and when he's throwing that strikes that deadly and not even knowing where some of them are coming from, I think that's a real challenge for these heavyweights to overcome, just because we've seen, well, to be fair, we've seen Tom as a great striker. I know he submitted Arlovski, but we've not seen Tom be able to grapple with these guys yet because no one's trying to go to the ground with him. And I think if they go to the ground, they're just going to be submitted as easily as well because I'm 90% sure that Tom's a BJJ black belt as well.
Because I must admit, see, like you mentioned about the elbow, I didn't see the elbow in real time, which is very strange for a heavyweight fight because a lot of heavyweight fights feel like they're in slow motion. So the way the transition for that knee into the elbow, it was like Muay Thai 101, but it was seamless. It was very quick. He's super impressive. But Ivanov, that's the Bulgarian guy, isn't it? Him, it was stabbed. He's a tough fight. He is a tough man. He's a tough fight for anyone. I thought Sergey Spivak would be I thought that'd be a much tougher fight because Sergey is a really good grappler. But he is strong in the grappling as well. A lot of people claim that he's a blanket, but I don't really subscribe to that because it's mixed martial arts at the end of the day. If you can't get someone off you for the ground, then it shows a weakness in your game. So get better offense off your back, but we only got more. So what would you like to see next for Tom Aspinall, Gregory?
I can see him. Yeah, I'm just worried about him in the top. I'm worried about him in the top 15 though. I mean, he's in the top 15, but I'm just worried about the people up in the ranks. I think he'll do well with Derek Lewis though.
That'd be a cool fight. That'd be a real fun fight.
Yeah.
But I like what Tom Aspinall said as well. Like, I think he wants to fight a couple more times before he gets that big fight, but I think he wants to be on a big card because he said something very interesting. He's 4 fights into his UFC career and he's never fought in front of fans. Last night was the first time he'd fought in front of fans and it was 200. And we know the difference that fans can have on an event.
And I think he'll do well. And he's really solid. He doesn't seem to rush. He has like a patient mentality when it comes to fighting. Yeah, which is why I compared him to Poirier, but he does have that kind of energy. So I guess it's more of the fear of just the physicality of some fighters. He's there like physically, but once he like goes against like the other big boys like Gane, I think he'll do a little bit well with Lewis. Like I don't know if he's as clean as Cyril Gane, but he's clean. And I think as long as he just goes through the same strategy, I think he'll be fine. Yeah, it's just when he goes up and like faces like really physical characters like Ngannou, Blades, and Cyril Gane, and maybe Overeem a little bit as well.
I'm gonna bring someone up again from last night, the main event, Darren Till. I hope he proves me wrong, but it's gonna pay me to say this. I don't see Darren Till becoming a UFC champion, and I hate to say that. 2 years ago, yeah, I would, but I don't see him being able to. I don't think he puts enough volume in his striking, and I thought Darren Till was going to be okay in the grappling aspect, but it just seemed last night that Derek Brunson was too much for him, and I think if he was to go against the guy. Well, let's talk about striking again. Say if he was to fight Adesanya for the belt, I think Adesanya's volume would be too much for Till, and Till doesn't throw enough volume. He's got the power, don't get me wrong, but it pains me to say, but I don't see Till becoming a UFC champion anytime soon. I hope he does a Michael Bisping or a Charles Oliveira and proves everyone wrong, but at the moment, I just don't see it.
I must admit, I've never really subscribed to the idea that he was going to be a UFC champion. I was always on the fence. I think that division is very difficult for anyone to become a UFC champion because I can see Israel Adesanya reigning over that division for as long as he wants. I don't really see anyone getting close to him. I think we've just seen how he's dismantled opponent after opponent. The way he dismantled Robert Whittaker was something to behold. And I know a lot of people are saying Robert beats him in the rematch, but I don't see it. I know he went up and he get beat off Jan Blachowicz, but Jan Blachowicz is world class. he is the cream of the crop as well, and it's the weight disadvantage that's what paid the dividends. Like, he's fought great wrestlers before. He's fought Derek Brunson. Derek Brunson couldn't get near him. He fought Vittori. Vittori really struggled. I know Vittori done really well in the first fight, but the second fight, Adesanya's game has just evolved too much. But just to come back to Darren Till as well, I always felt Darren Till got the push a bit too soon, because he came off, he beat Cerrone, and then he beat Wonderboy. The Wonderboy fight was very questionable. Mm-hmm. I was unsure. I can see why either fighter would get it, but was that enough to fight Tyron Woodley at the time? I don't know. And that was when Woodley was that was before the Usman fight, which seemed to just change Woodley's life. But yes, it's really hard to see where Darren Till goes next. I know a lot of people are shouting that he gets cut and goes to Bellator. I don't think he's there. I don't think he's there yet. He is a high level UFC opponent, UFC fighter. I don't subscribe to that he needs to get cut. I don't subscribe that he needs to go to Bellator because he's lost some fights against the best guys in the world, because I think that's just really ridiculous. I think that's just a ridiculous way to look at things, and it annoys me that people just claim that Bellator is like the B leagues. So if ever MD needs to get cut, or a UFC fighter doesn't do well, or just shift them off to Bellator, it means nothing. Bellator's they've got their own really good fighters as well, but that's a different topic for another day. But yeah, I think he just get exposed. I think he get exposed against a world-class grappler with a big chip on his shoulder. It's Derek Brunson, the way Derek Brunson's starting to go about things, it's reminding me of the way Corey Anderson went.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I just think he just needs to clean up on his grappling. I know he said he's a Brazilian brown belt, a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brown belt. Last time he talked about it, but yeah, for that kind of stuff, like, there was ways that you can intercept that kind of grappling. Adesanya has done it, and he even expressed interest to fight Darren Till. So that it may be a tenuous connection because of that loss, but it's still there. So if he can just clean that up, he'll be fine. Yeah, it's just it's an unfortunate situation. You see fighters that don't really like clean up the things that they're struggling with, and people see that as a weakness. That's why some people are looked at cheese champions, like of champions with holes in them. And once you can exploit those holes, you can become champion too. So it's like one of those things that you just got to look at.
And I think it's that way as well. A lot of negatives have been put on Darren Till, but he didn't fight bad. To a degree, he hurt Brunson a lot in this, especially in the exchanges. See, just before he was finished, he really hurt Brunson, which I think if Izzy gets Brunson in that position, it's game over. So I'm unsure what to do with Darren Till, and it's sad because he is a great character. See, when they built that whole Liverpool show around him, it was amazing. The crowd bought into it, the hype behind it. Like, the sport needs figures like Darren Till. They need people who will push the sport to the next level. They need people that will bring in your average Joe. It's all well and good, the hardcore saying, Derek Brunson's a great fighter. But you ask 90% of the people in the street who Derek Brunson is, they won't know. Which is no slaying on Derek Brunson. Like, Derek Brunson's a world-class fighter, but a part of me wanted Darren Till to win. That's the reason. Because Darren Till just brings so much to the sport. He brings this hype. He's got a personality. A lot of the things he says is very controversial, and I disagree with a lot of the things he says. But you can't argue that the man brings eyes to the sport.
Well, I'm going to throw a fight out for both guys. I don't think Darren Brunson gets the title shot next, just because it's going to be Robin Izzy too. Who knows when that's going to be because of their travel restrictions. But Derek Brunson and Jared Cannonier, and that chuck Darren Till in there with the winner of Luke Rockhold and Sean Strickland.
Mm.
I like that. I like the idea of Cannonier, because Cannonier is an absolute unit. Like, he's terrifying.
Mm.
That man scares me. But it's, yeah, like short the winner of that fight or Kevin Holland.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I can see that. Yeah, like I think he was also an opponent in the title eliminator because Karen Cannonier faced Whitaker, then he faced Gastelum. He lost to Whitaker, but he won against Gastelum, so he's still like in that limbo. And for Derek Brunson, if he can prove that he's better than Cannonier, then he'll be above Gastelum and Cannonier, and then he'll be in the talks with Whitaker. So yeah, I think it's just one more fight. I would like that fight.
I like when he said that he's not broke, he can wait. I really like that when they asked him if he's willing to wait for the winner of Izzy Rob. He was just like, I'm not broke, I can wait.
Exactly. That's funny.
Yeah, that was a really good that was a really good line, to be fair. But his wrestling last night just looked really on point. I just didn't expect that fight to go the way it did. I thought Till would win on points. I just didn't expect it to be so one-sided in the grappling. Like I knew, obviously, Derek Brunson's a world-class wrestler, but you expected more for Till because Till usually does have really good takedown defense.
Did you guys think it would Till tapped a bit quickly to that rear naked?
I said at the time, yes, but I can understand why. I think his lead eye had begun to shut. He was struggling to see. He'd spent about maybe 11 minutes under Derek Brunson, which is very tiring. And I think a lot of the time with these really high-level wrestlers, once they get the squeeze, once it's locked, you're not getting out of it. It's the same with Khabib. But a lot of guys tap quite quickly from Khabib. Just the years of wrestling, that kind of pressure. As soon as that's on your neck, you know it's game over. So there's no point getting choked out and being medically suspended for 6 months. But I felt personally that the tap came quite quick.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll be all right. Yeah, I'm just weirded out by that rule where you have to be medically suspended if you get choked out. I mean, it's just if it's just a blood choke, it should be fine.
Yeah.
There's one more person I wanted to talk about from last night's card, and it was Meatball Molly McCann. And I tell you what, boys,
Meatball!
I was so happy to see Molly back in there getting a win.
I was so buzzing. See, just you know how much it means to Meatball. She wears her heart on her sleeve. It was just such a good fight, and she looked really good. But that was a really good opponent. Like she was up against like Yeon Ji Kim. Like she's
Jeon Kim. Firefly
advantage. And we've seen what Ji Kim looked like against Jessica Grasso as well. Like, she's got great hands, and I think Meatball just coped really well with the reach difference because 10 inches is like that off a full ruler. A difference for what they can hit you and you can't hit them. That's insane.
Yeah.
So the way she was in, she used great footwork. She got in. It was like Mike Tyson, and I think it was her. It was either her or the fight before that they were shouting to be Mike Tyson. I can't remember if it was her or the Dolce Lugaglima fight. He was going Mike Tyson footwork, Mike, because he was a much shorter fighter, and that's who she kind of reminded me of. See the way she was getting inside and she was landing that big overhand. Nice. A lot of people were calling her pillow fists after the fight, but I think Ji Kim's just a very tough opponent. I wouldn't say Molly McCann's got pillow fists.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really like Molly McCann, and I'm glad that she got the win. I guess it's more to the point that I hope she gets a better competition. I mean, it's really wide open in the women's division. Like, if you do really well and you can model yourself appropriately and actually scream out, yeah, I want this fight, and they'll get you the fight. I mean, Lauren Murphy's fighting for the championship, God rest her soul. But I'm thinking she'll be fine. she just needs to just call out. I got to see her post fight press conference. I just want to see if she called out anyone. But I want to see more of her in the mix. Yeah, I mean I think she's just as popular with I'm just assuming that she's just as popular in among the English fans as the others. So yeah, I would like to see more of her.
Yeah, she's very popular with the English fans as well. She's kind of got that same attitude. Like I loved the fight. Like I can't remember the opponent slipped out of my head. But it was like 2 fights ago when Meatball, she was winning at the end of the fight and gave them the finger. So I think she said, "Fuck you, I've just beat you with one hand," because she'd broke her hand early in the fight.
Wow.
And, "Fuck you, I beat you with one hand," and just done like a lap of the octagon before the end of it was like the
Damn, that's
"Fuck you, I beat you with one hand," and Van Moon then climbed the cage. You get a hype with Molly McCann, you just get excitement. And you see that with the fight as well. Like, see the end of the fight, a fight that she was winning, she bangs her chest and goes, "Right, let's fuck it," and lets her hit her. Like, she bangs the chest and she's like, "Hey, let's go." Last 20 seconds, and that woman's G Kim's landing punches, and she's just like moving the head, not caring. She's just exciting. She's an exciting fighter, and I like to watch her.
Yeah, I mean that made me laugh a lot when she did that. I think that just goes to show like how entertaining she is. Yeah, and like adding that to the mix. You don't see a lot of good trash talk in the women's division. It's you can tell like how forced it is, but damn, she's of that cloth. So yeah, so more of her, please.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean, because it was like when Joanna Young Jacek and is it Beth Cadera, they done the Ultimate Fighter. That dark. Like Beth Cadera was just calling her a whore, and you're like, oh, I don't. It's no. That's no funny. That's just no.
It's not. It's not.
It's just like, oh, it's went dark.
I don't. Yeah, man. I mean, at least she can like add some some fresh takes or some a new way to like spit barbs at people. Yeah.
But we'll go away from the UFC. Well, not fully away from the UFC at the moment, but we haven't had a podcast since most of this kicked off. But what are you guys making of the whole Jake Paul scenario and the whole YouTube Love Island boxing?
Yeah, that. It's whatever. I guess people that didn't take it as seriously. I think they're giving Tyron Woodley shit because he wants to get a "I love Jake Paul" tattoo on him just so he can get a rematch. If he wants to get the bag, I mean, he can. Yeah, I don't think I can take that one as seriously as I used to. I think I think I did at one point, but all I see it is just it's just a show, and I think he's like going to be just going along with it. People are talking about the ramifications of like, what are you doing yourself? You're lowering yourself. Like, even though it is just a show, like this kind of type of show is like beneath you. He's like, you shouldn't be doing something like that. But I don't know. I think he's just being pragmatic about it. I mean, at least it's not as bad as like getting knocked out. I don't think Jake Paul was going to knock out Tyron Woodley. I think it was just more on Tyron Woodley knocking out Jake Paul, as he almost did. I think it was in the second or third round.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm not against all these fights Jake Paul's having. I'm just against the fact that he says he can beat everyone. The fact he thinks he can beat Kamaru Usman, the guy's on that status. I don't. That's the bit that I don't like. Where I'm all for everyone getting in the cage, ring, whatever they're fighting in, and having a go for it, because everyone's got the right to test themselves. But when you go in against the guys and saying you can beat these guys, then that's what I don't agree with.
Yeah, I think that way with Jake Paul as well. Is Jake Paul's running a very dangerous route. See this way he's trash talking every day.
Yeah,
the way he's trash talking everyone, he gets quite personal. He gets like kind of Conor McGregor-esque. But that's only going to fly for so long. Like he's starting to trash talk Jorge Masvidal, and we've seen what Jorge Masvidal will do if you trash talk him. Well, if he sees you in the street, he's going to bang you. And I think Jake Paul needs to accept that. Let's see. It was like when with Tommy Fury after the fight, like Jake Paul looked a bit like that when some of Tommy Fury's guys were trying to get to him, because him and Tommy Fury had a spat backstage. And it's that way as well. Like, you're getting into this world, man, where these guys are fighters. Like, they fight outside the ring, they'll fight outside the ring. You need to accept that. If you're going to trash talk these people, if one of them sees you, you need to be ready to throw down in the spot. And I think the fight with him and Tommy Fury, that was one of the fights. I was saying that should have happened before the Ben Askren fight, to be fair, because I think they're both on the same trajectory. Like, I respect Tommy Fury a lot more because Tommy Fury's obviously got the amateur background, moved into the pros, but I struggle to say Tommy Fury's opponents have been much better than Jake Paul's. But we're now starting to see as well that a lot of MMA fighters are starting to call out these guys, because I'm seeing it with a guy that I follow and I've got a lot of respect for, Kiefer Crosby. He's spending a lot of time trying to get the fight with Tommy Fury because it's a fight that makes him a lot of money.
Yeah. I don't know what Jake Paul's thinking. I mean, and you brought up like him being Conor McGregor-esque. It backfired when he did it to Khabib. Like there was like a dangerous amount of tension when he won that fight, because once Khabib like started going after Dylan Dennis, like he shot himself once that happened. And then there was a lot of Khabib's fans in the audience. Like, you can't like do that. Like, even no matter what you think about, like, there should be more cordial. Like, it's an MMA fight. Or we're watching people get punched in the face. Like, where there's a community that has like a certain like mode of rules, and especially with Jake Paul, he's gonna do that to the wrong person. It's gonna backfire on him. Like, if he tries to do that with Kamaru Usman, oh man, that's gonna be nasty. Especially with he tried to do it with Tyron Woodley. Tyron Woodley kind of like did things like Tyron Woodley always does. Like, he kind of like is hesitant about it. But like, if he's gonna do that to the wrong person, it's gonna be bad. But this is what's Jake Paul fans are always gonna say. Oh, he said he did the same thing to the other fighters like Nate Robinson and like Ben Askren, and they all lost. I don't think it's gonna be anything about that. It's just like this way of promoting, and he has this half-assed way of like backpedaling, like, hey, bullying is wrong, man. Follow my foundation where we go against bullying, which is only the only reason why he got the clout that he had for this fight prior to that. And he did the same thing against I think Deji, KSI's brother. I don't know what he's trying to do. It's weird. I think it's just a symptom of the fact that boxing can't really promote fights anymore, and he's the only reason why this entire thing is working the way it is. They're like at the mercy of other people, like bringing their own flair to get asses in seats, but they're not even taking into account the lasting effects of it. Yeah, it's a mess.
I think you make an absolutely brilliant point there at the end there, Gregory. It was all good, but that point you made at the end about boxing not being able to sell itself, it's spot on. And me and Mason can testify that as two British combat fans. That we've been waiting about 10, which feels like 25 years, what it feels like my whole life, to watch Anthony Joshua versus Tyson Fury. Like, this is the potential to be the biggest fight in UK boxing, and they refuse to make it. They'd rather run the Deontay Wilder fight 3 times. It's ridiculous. Like, boxing's became farcical. It's all the ridiculous contracts that's in it as well. Like, you see it with the UFC too. I know it's different with UFC because they're all under one company, so it's easier to manage. But with the UFC, a fight you want to see, they'll make it. Like Conor McGregor and Khabib, they made that fight and everyone loved it. And that's the thing with the UFC. They'll make the big fights. They're not wanting to give a guy 15 fights before they put him up against this other guy. They're willing to put these guys ahead and just go, right, let's see who's the best guy in the world. Not let's have 15 championships and the same guy owns about 5 and another one owns 6. Boxing's became ridiculous, and their inability to make the fights that the fans want has opened the door for this clownery. Like, people don't want to see a third fight with Tyson Fury against Deontay Wilder. So Deontay Wilder can lose and then make 15 excuses about his water bottle being poisoned, about him wearing a suit wearing that tin suit to the cage. No, not the cage, the ring. Why were you wearing it? Who asked you to wear that? Like, no one forced you to wear that. Like that is not an excuse because you're wearing something that you chose to wear. Oh,
it's a mess. It's a mess.
He sacked his coaches because he believed one of them poisoned his water bottle. The man, it became absolutely farcical. And I don't know where boxing goes for here. It's in a sad state. And the thing is with boxing, like guys like Jake Paul can get away with it. Like, because they can put them up against guys that Jake Paul could maybe beat because it's so one-dimensional and they have a puncher's chance. Like, we seen what happened when a celebrity tried to come into the UFC. Take Brock Lesnar away from this because Brock Lesnar was a severely high-level wrestler and is a freak athlete. But I know he was in the WWE and it was a bit showy, but Brock Lesnar in his young life, he was like a really high-level college wrestler and he is a freak of nature, so he's a bit different. But we've seen what happened when they tried to bring CM Punk in and they put him up against Mickey Gall. Mickey Gall most people won't know who Mickey Gall is, out with the kind of hardcore support, and that just shows you. And Mickey Gall just demolished him. He absolutely hurt him and made him look like he didn't deserve to be there. And somebody needs to do that to Jake Paul. Put him in with Canelo.
Yeah. I think for the state of boxing is bleak. Like, they had like people like Vasyl Lomachenko. Teofimo Lopez and Lomachenko. That was a really fun fight. Triple G. I don't know what they're gonna do with him. Canelo. They still have Canelo. He's pretty young, so they'll ride him for a little bit. I don't know what Mayweather's gonna do because he fought Logan Paul. He made a little bit of money, quite a bit of money.
Paul is about 5 times his weight.
Yeah,
ridiculous fight to make.
I know.
That's what seems to be with the Paul brothers. They seem to be weight bullies.
Yeah, but then after that, there is Nico Ali Wash. I don't know how close you follow boxing. You know about him?
No, I've not really heard of him actually.
I know. He's Muhammad Ali's grandson. Yeah. I think. No, not grandson. I think his. Yeah, I think it might be his grandson, or his godson, or a little bit of that. I think it's like twice removed. Nico Ali Wash. They kind of gave him a tune-up fight, so I think he's gonna get more of that as he fights for his career. They kind of did the same thing with Triple G, even though he had he started getting better fights. In his mid career, he fought the guy that beat Nassim Hamed in a unanimous decision. So it kind of showed that he's able to hang. Yeah, but I guess Nico Ali Wash still built him up for a little bit, but I don't know for how long. And even then, I don't think he'll carry them that much because they don't have that many huge fighters left. Not unless they find another giant athlete like Fury or Joshua. There's a few Daniel Dubois, okay, and other guys that are have long wingspans are huge. But even then, that's not going to be enough because you're just reaching the bottom of the barrel. What else can you possibly do? So it's boxing indeed has a problem, and I think it's one of those rare occasions that they can look to MMA, the much younger sport, for inspiration on how to promote things.
That's a great summary of the state that boxing's in. So just to kind of wrap up the podcast, I'm very interested to hear from Mason. How did everything go with the fight? How did you feel with the camp? How did you feel when you got in there? Just to wrap us up before we go, because we've now got first-hand experience for yourself.
Obviously, the fight didn't go my way. I lost the second round submission, but taking away that, I wouldn't change the experience. Looking back on the night, it was at the time of recording, I think 9 days ago now. And to be honest, it was probably one of the greatest experiences I've had. The only thing that could have topped it is obviously me getting the win, but it didn't happen. But looking back, there was there's some things I did wrong in the camp. I'm not going to name them because I'm not going to make excuses, because my opponent won fair and square. He did what he needed to do. So all credit to him for getting the job done. But I know from what I've done in the gym that wasn't the best of me. And I think nerves and pressure, I definitely felt the pressure, because we was only in a small venue and I had quite a lot of friends and family there as well, and I felt the pressure there. But going into the camp and leading up to the fight, I felt good. I do realise now how much I was actually doing, like how long I was in camp for, because I didn't realise, obviously, gyms opened April 12th, and from April 12th till August 27th, I was training for the fight. And obviously, I was supposed to be originally fighting July 2nd, but COVID restrictions postponed that. And I didn't realise how long the camp actually went on for. But I went from 216 pounds and I weighed in at 168 pounds on the day of the fight. So I think looking back, that there was some things I could have done to get the win, but like I said, it didn't happen. All credit to my opponent, and I can't wait to be back in there. Win or lose, I love the experience, and I've got a newfound level of respect for guys that cut weight, eat healthy all through camp, because I don't know how they do it so often.
That's it as well. See, especially your amateur career is there to make these tweaks and maybe make mistakes in camp, like things that But that's the thing as well, isn't it? It's the first time you've ever done it, and it's so primal. It's so, there is going to be nerves, sort of thing. So I think you can be proud of yourself for just making that walk. Let's see, regardless of how things go in the cage, because I buy into that John Kavanagh philosophy that you either win or you learn. That's only two ways. I don't think you really lose in martial arts all at the time. I think you only lose if you let yourself lose. But if you let yourself get downhearted, then you will lose. But if you look at it as a learning experience, you won't lose. So, sugar, I've lost my train of thought there. I get all philosophical. But yeah, just we're all super proud that you and Leo had the cojones to go and do it. Like, not many people can say that for the cage fight.
Appreciate it, brother.
Oh, yeah. I mean, big ups to you, man, especially with that giant weight cut and the fact that you made it. Yeah, I mean, you're a better man than I couldn't imagine like dropping that much weight and being able to fight. I mean, you pulled it off tremendously.
Appreciate that, guys.
Yeah, that's us. We can wrap it up there. It's been a blast, guys. I really appreciate your time. Thanks at home for listening. Remember to like, subscribe, share the video, tag your pals, tag your granny, tag your mum, your dad, your sisters. See you later.
Take care, guys.
Take care.